welcome to the podcast that I'm going to be calling The Steel Corner. This is the very first episode. My name is Mike Willoughby. I'm a competitive shooter. I'm on the Navy action shooting team, but everything I say here has absolutely nothing to do with the Navy or any viewpoint of the DoD. This is just my opinions and my experiences. The point of this podcast is going to be to cover more technical aspects of Steel Challenge, my experience around the community, what I've seen, what I like, what I don't like. We'll talk about everything from mindset to technical training to gear to what divisions to run for what times you're looking for. Really want to get into some things like what I think about when I'm in the box, how do I visualize everything, and then overall focusing, getting your times lower, moving up, being competitive, and most importantly, lowering that 8-stage time, since we all know that's all that matters when you go to a major. So a little bit about me. I'm currently a 5-division Grandmaster, over 100% in 4 of those divisions. So right now I'm a Grandmaster in carry optics. Been shooting a SIG P320 recently, just got to over 100% with that and on the top 20 list. Super nice, really competitive division. And then all last year, most of my time shooting Steel Challenge, I focused on revolvers. Optic sight revolver and iron sight revolver. I'm currently number 3 in the world with optic sight revolver. Currently number 3 in the world with iron sight revolver, but number 2 is a fraud. We can talk about that guy a little bit later because there's an interesting story behind that one. There's zero chance that he shot those times. I also shoot RFPO, over 100% with that as well. That's also a primary division that I shoot. Even though I don't give too much focus to rimfire, my main game is the centerfire. Rimfire's fun. Teaches you how to go fast, teaches you how to see fast, but it's never been a primary focus of mine. I'm also a Grandmaster with rimfire rifle open. Just spent enough time to hit Grandmaster with that. Far from an expert with the rifles yet, and I don't know that I have plans to do a lot of development on those here anytime soon. Different episodes of the podcast, hopefully we'll be talking about things other than shooting a little bit. We'll be talking a little bit about fitness, about mindset. So I do a good bit of reading. I also work out pretty much every single day, and I believe that directly correlates into some shooting performance stuff. Obviously, it's not critical. You don't have to work out. You don't have to be super physically fit to be an amazing shooter, especially in Steel Challenge where there's only one stage with movement. But I think it definitely helps, and it definitely helps keep your composure over those long 8-stage days, whether it's the middle of winter and you're struggling because it's freezing cold, or if it's the middle of summer and you're struggling because it's hot as heck and we're all dying out there on the range. So as I mentioned, I do a lot of reading on books, sports science, motivation in general, lifestyle development, you name it, I probably read it. A lot of science books, a lot of interesting stuff. So one that I've been reading recently is The Little Book of Talent, 52 Tips for Improving Your Skills. It's by an author named Daniel Coyle. He wrote the book The Talent Code, which really dives into these prodigies, these insanely skilled people, and it explores their backgrounds and really how they got to the level that they got to. So this book is essentially what he learned throughout all of his research, boiled down into 52 little bullet points. Really short book. It's about 150 pages overall. So what I want to start with today is tip number 1 from the book. And it is stare at who you want to become. And I think this is really important. When we talk about Steel Challenge, we talk about competition shooting in general, any hard skills. There's already people doing what you want to do at the level that you're aspiring to do it at for now, right? You can go on YouTube and you can watch the clips of the World Speed Shooting Championship and the fastest people in the world. Every single one of them has slightly different technique. They have different ways that they grip the gun. They have different ways that they engage the targets on a stage. They have different ways that they execute the draw, where they put their hands. Sometimes if you get lucky, you can hear some interviews and they'll talk about what they think about during the stage. But either way, you can watch them and you can learn from what they do. They're already at a level above what you are trying to get to at this moment. You need to use those resources. More than likely, they've put tons of critical thought into what they are doing and exactly how they set up and shoot every single time. So the best thing you can do, it's completely free, is stare at who you want to become. Go watch those guys. See what they're doing. Try it out in dry fire. Maybe someone holds their hand straight and another person angles their hand outwards, and you find that your sweet spot is right in between the two. You've got to experiment with these things, and that's how you refine your technique over time. If you think your technique is perfect and you aren't shifting it currently, you're probably pretty stagnant. I myself shift my technique all the time. I am constantly evaluating new ways of doing things. I'm constantly tweaking my draw position. I'm constantly looking at where my holster is and if it's efficient. That being said, I take a slightly different approach when I'm talking to someone about getting started. So, the topic today is going to be my recommendations for getting started and building foundational skills. The most important thing when I got started was I wanted to put time on my gun every single day. The way I did it was, at the time, I was on a morning workout kick. I would always work out before work. I had a very stable work schedule, but it was very early. So I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning, dry firing for 15 minutes, doing my workout, and then I had to be leaving for work at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's what I did, 6 months straight. And what that did, every single day I had that gun in my hand. On the weekends, I was shooting matches. On the weekdays, I was dry firing. I usually tried to make it out to the live fire, the little indoor range near me. Tried to make it out to the indoor range about once a week, do 50 to 100 rounds only. Not crazy sessions, not expensive. Indoor range, on a lane, they let you draw, they let you rapid fire, but even that is not that critical. We'll talk about that on another episode. That's a whole nother can of worms. We'll get into all that. But back to the topic. 15 minutes a day, no matter what. Period. During that 15 minutes, I'm running. Back then, I was focusing on USPSA. When I first got started, I was shooting mostly USPSA. Shot that almost exclusively for 6 months. Did a little bit of steel challenge here and there when there weren't any USPSA matches over the weekend, but mostly USPSA back then. Did those drills, mostly USPSA. I was using Steve Anderson's book, Get to Work, or whatever his one book is. I think I've got it back here. Steve Anderson's Dry Fire book, where he talks mostly about how to shoot classifiers well. Did that in USPSA for about 6 months straight, just nothing but work, matches on the weekend. Moved up pretty quickly in USPSA, managed to get to master class. Then I realized shooting a class fire at a master class level and shooting a 32 round field course at a master class level are two different things. One reason I gravitated more away from USPSA, I still shoot it from time to time, definitely not my focus. It's more of a fun thing now. But one reason I gravitated away from it is I felt like a lot of times it was a stage planning and more of a memorization problem than a shooting problem. So that's one reason I really fell in love with Steel Challenge, was the consistency of it, the numbers, but more importantly, it's always a consistency and a shooting challenge. Can you shoot those targets as fast as possible, quickly, and still do it well? Can you do it without having 10 makeup shots? Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I can. But it's always a consistent shooting challenge. And anybody that says it's just muscle memory, I'm sorry, but I don't agree whatsoever. Because you can rearrange these stages any which way, and these good steel challenge shooters will smoke them. Has absolutely nothing to do with the order of the plates or the arrangement of the plates. It's just very nice, and I think everybody that is at a very competitive level in Steel Challenge, the people that are shooting it constantly and striving to do better, I think to some degree we all really like the consistency of it because you can see your times go down and you know when you're getting better. I don't think it really has anything to do with the fact that it's the same stages over and over again. The only reason that that is relevant is because it's a way to measure success and consistency. That's it for me anyway. I can't speak for everybody, but from what I've noticed, we all love the numbers, and we love the consistency of it because we can see the numbers reflect our efforts. Another little segment I want to throw into all of these podcasts, a little bit of fun. We'll talk a little bit about FUD Lore. You know what I'm talking about. It's the career C classes that are out on the range, have a lot of like really firm recommendations, think that their way is the only way, anything else is junk. Really strong recommendations, you know them because anytime there's a lady on the range, they've got to grab her and give her the most greatest advice that they'll ever hear about shooting and tell her all the things that she's doing wrong, only to discover later that she shot 240 seconds faster than them over a 6-stage match. So the first topic of FUD lore is cross-eye dominance. This not really so much FUD lore as it is a perceived barrier that isn't really a barrier. Okay, I am left-handed and right-eye dominant, and let me tell you what that means for me. When it comes to shooting handguns, it means instead of coming in line of my left eye, my gun is just slightly moved over in front of my right eye. It is almost imperceptible when I am drawing the gun up to my eye. Almost imperceptible. Instead of coming here, it's coming here. I do not notice it whatsoever. It's the same with iron sights. It does not affect shooting whatsoever. Stop talking about your cross-eye dominance as if it's a hindrance. That being said, there is one scenario where it is a little bit weird, because shooting rifles, when you get your cheek weld, obviously, if your left eye is behind your optic and your left eye is your weak eye, for me that doesn't work. So I shoot rifles right-handed, that way my right eye is behind my optic and I'm steering the gun with my left hand. Doesn't affect me. Still shoot rifles semi-okay. Still a grandmaster with rimfire rifle. That's my perspective on cross-eye dominance. I really don't think it's an issue. Please, let's stop talking about it. If you need any help on that, if you have any questions, if you're cross-eye dominant and you think it's holding you back, let's chat. Happy to talk to you about it. But that's my segment on cross-eye dominance, and that's our FUD lore for the day. Getting back to what I was talking about with daily practice when I got started. When I got started, I did not record myself at any matches. I didn't buy a camera. I didn't ask anybody to record me every single stage. Some stages I had some people record me just so I would have stuff for social media and to look back on. But 99% of the time I wasn't having anything recorded, nothing. Okay? And the reason I did that, there's a very specific reason, and it is because I see a lot of people spending more time messing with their video files, messing with the footage on their phone, and watching it like they're going to learn something magical instead of practicing. And I wanted to avoid that trap. You all know it as well as I do. You know people that you've been shooting with forever that seem to never be improving, but yet they're always recording things, and they're always editing footage, and they're always tinkering with their gear. That's another thing. Set up your gear and leave it. You can tweak it a little bit. You can tweak an angle here or there, especially if you're doing center fire pistol and steel challenge. Your angle of the holster, it'll make a huge difference when you draw. So take your time, set that up. Don't be afraid to tweak that a little bit. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about switching holsters, switching mag pouches, a little bit irrelevant for steel challenge, but you know what I'm saying. Stop switching equipment on your gun. Get it fixed the way that you want it and leave it. That's how you build mastery. You're going to be using that platform every single day. And if you keep changing it over and over and over again, you're never going to build mastery on that platform. Period. You may get quicker because you're putting in some reps with other equipment, but if you change it all the time, that's all that you're going to be doing. If you're constantly tweaking your gear, you're constantly filming and editing videos, if you're constantly tweaking your reloads and changing your formulas and chronoing new loads, you're going to be spending 100% more time on the auxiliary parts of shooting that don't make you faster and 100% less time on the things that will actually improve your scores. So the next episode that I do, I'm going to try to cover everything that I think about, everything that I do these days in dry fire practice. And I say these days because it does change over time. My habits today are not what they were 6 months ago. It evolves over time depending on your goals, depending on how much time you're willing to put in, depending on life. Okay, but one thing has stayed constant, and that is I want to have my gun in my hand for quality, undistracted practice for at least 15 minutes a day. That's it. 15 minutes a day, no YouTube, 99% of the time no music either. Every once in a while I'll leave it on just because I'm dragging that day and I need a little something to get me going. But no YouTube, no music videos, no nothing but a gun, a timer, and my eyes glued to whatever target I'm engaging at the time. So really, those 15 minutes a day were enough to get me to master in USPSA from classifiers, definitely not from major matches. We'll talk more about that. Mentioned it earlier. Running a masterclass score on a classifier is not the same as running a masterclass score on a 32-round field course. Period. That being said, within 6-7 months of serious competition, I was a masterclass in USPSA. Steel Challenge, I believe it took me until November, maybe December of that year, so 7 to 8 months to hit master. And then I completely switched platforms. I went from carry optics in Steel Challenge to OSR. OSR, picked up an iron sight revolver as well, just because same platform, same holster, why not? Switched to those platforms about December of 2021. I ran those almost entirely for the year of 2022. April of 2022, I went to the World Speed Shoot. I got third place with OSR, third place in ISR, which is great since that's where I'm sitting on the top 20 list right now anyway. Obviously, they're not the biggest divisions. The times were not super blazing. They were okay. I was okay. I was still a masterclass when I went to the World Speed Shoot. I believe I made Grandmaster like the following month after the World Speed Shoot. So probably about May is when I originally made Grandmaster, May of 2021. No, May of 2022. Wow. May of 2022 was when I originally made Grandmaster with OSR. I believe I made it with ISR around the same time, and RFPO was probably around that same time too. From there, I pushed a little bit with RFRO just to get that up, since I was already a master with it. Pushed a little bit, got that up to GM. I'm still currently about 95% with that. Haven't pushed it over 100 yet. Rifles just aren't my favorite. They're just not my thing. I really like centerfire pistols. That's my main gig. Rimfire pistols, I just ordered a iron-sighted Scorpion, which I've been putting off for so long. I've needed to order one. Rimfire's cheap, it's fun, it's fast. I should have ordered one a long time ago, but I just ordered it. So I'm really looking forward to running some RFPI when that comes in. Maybe some production too on the SIG P320. Do the same thing that I did with the revolvers, same platform, same holster. We'll see what happens. But anyway, from there, ran the revolvers most of last year. Just recently, here late December, early January of 2023, I started running carry optics again. I really wanted to get my carry optics time over 100%, which I just hit this last week, which put me on the top 20 list of carry optics, which I'm pretty stoked about. Most popular centerfire division in the game. So goals for this year, definitely want to be in the low 90s with carry optics. And if I go back to the revolvers this year, I may be taking a break from them. If I do go back to them, I want to be low 90s with optic sight revolver as well. That'd be really great. We'll see what happens. Obviously, life sometimes gets a vote as well, but definitely carry optics. Current personal best, first 8 stage that I shot with the SIG P320 AXG Pro. It's not up here right now. Had it up here earlier. First 8 stage I shot with it. I shot faster than I ever shot my OSR, which was pretty disappointing and made me really reconsider my entire life. But first 8 stage was a 97-second 8 stage. My fastest time with the OSR was 98 seconds, and I only hit that once. I've been right around the 100-second mark a few times with OSR. Never crossed it until I hit that 98-second match. First match with that SIG P320, shot 97 seconds with it. I believe I ran a 103 the other day on a really cold, awful day. Yeah, it's really fun. So, some things that we've got coming up on the show. The very first thing I'm going to talk about is dry fire practice, what I do, what that looks like. I'm going to take you through some videos of me doing some dry fire practice. Right here, AMG Commander Timer. It's what I use. It's what I always recommend. In my opinion, it's the best. Of course, I haven't used all the newest and latest stuff from like Shooters World or Shooters Global or whatever that one is. Haven't used that, so maybe it's not the best. AMG Commander Timer is what I use. Yeah, we'll go through dry fire, what I do, what everything looks like, my current setup, why it's set up that way. I have what I think is probably the best dry fire setup, and it involves a revolver, an AMG commander timer set up in your dry fire area, because with max sensitivity, that AMG timer will pick up the hammer drop. So if you have the stage set up to scale with either the Go Fast Don't Suck stickers that you can set up to scale, or the dry fire banners, which is what I use, if you have those set up and you have your holster and your competition gun, and you have a timer that can pick up every single shot, every single time your hammer drops, the timer picks it up, you replicated about 90% of everything that you're going to see in that match, and you know exactly what your time would be, including makeups. We'll talk about that in dry fire practice, including makeups. You don't just yeet irresponsibly. About 90% of match conditions you're replicating at home every single time you dry fire. We'll talk about that. We'll go through all that in the next episode. We'll get really in the weeds. It'll be really fun. All right, after that, we're going to talk a little bit about live fire practice, what I do. Spoiler alert, it's mostly indoor range. We'll talk you through my setup, how I save time, how I optimize it, what I try to do when I'm there, why I do what I do, how to save money, how to make it quick. We'll go through all of that. Some other things I want to talk about is all 8 stages. I want to talk about engagement order, what I think about when I'm in the box, things that I've noticed over time, why I shoot certain stages the way I shoot them. We'll go through that. Hopefully all 8 stages. That'll be fun. That'll be about 8 episodes. We'll do an episode for each stage. Of course, eventually I want to talk about equipment for different divisions. My biggest loves, these revolvers here. Not the most popular divisions, so there are a lot of equipment things that most people don't know about. There's a lot of intricacies when it comes to the revolvers, but once you get it set up, it's like a well-oiled machine. It just goes. So the revolvers were probably the most complicated to get exactly the way that I wanted them, but once they're done, it's just set it and forget it. They're amazing. Highly recommend revolver to anybody. Talked about that dry fire benefit, but they're just a ton of fun. You can compare your times to production times if you're shooting iron sights. You can compare your times to carry optics if you're shooting optic sight. It's just a ton of fun. Nobody shoots it, but you can still compare your times. If you're a weirdo like me, you can just try to beat everybody with your revolvers. That's fun too. So I think that's going to do it for me today. Hopefully this was fun. Hopefully you're looking forward to future episodes. I know this was just a bit of an intro. It's still kind of long. So I want to be able to produce some quality content for the community. Hopefully the audio and the video sounds good. Let me know if it's jacked up at all. Let me know if you've got any tips. I'm not a professional at this. This is not my job, not my specialty at all. I don't really like talking in the first place, much less on video, much less to the internet. So let me know how I can improve this. Let me know what topics you want to hear about, and yeah, we'll cover it. See you on the next one.